Ooh, that art makes a good first impression. All right, so we're going to try Devil's Gambit today, which I think is another recently launched furry visual novel. We're doing a lot of, like, first build plays lately. I think this one has a connection to Minotaur Hotel, which admittedly is a game that I also haven't interrogated yet. Maybe at some point. That's one of the more recommended games, I think, but I also think it's not done, and we're trying to play things that have finished stories for the playthroughs, not for the Let's Trays. So we'll see if I get to it for a one-off sometime. Man, how do people paint digitally? It's so hard. Alright. I was born among screams, there in Rannai, where the day is enshrouded in frigid mist and orange lights warm up the night. Where beyond the forest the mountains have eyes. Oops. You can't do this to me. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Where, beyond the forest, the mountains have eyes, and ruins and trees alike grow out of a scar. Its roots spread across the earth, touching all that dared seek it. It's weird to have a screen that moves on its own. Act 1, Chapter 1, Hector, in a game that's going to be largely press A to continue. One morning, a lion knight invited us into a wagon. Clean, relatively silent, with splinter-free seats, as it took us into the forest. Dad made me read him a book, since I was falling behind in my studies. However, the twisted trees greeting us through the front opening, past the wolf coachman, stole all my attention. Despite his stern gaze, and him telling me to read a sentence over again, my head was full of what happened in the tavern the day before. While Dad drank with the wolves, I talked to the keeper's daughter, a girl, about my age, with gray fur, round eyes, as they tend to be, and an impish smile. By the name of Triesa. She asked typical questions. Why were my ears so round and my nose so big? Where did I come from? Are you a hyena? That's what I think when I think round ears and large nose. When the girl got bored, she shot a glance at the adults before showing me that toothy smile. You know, there are demons in the forest. The lions say they are gone, but they aren't. What? You know that expedition the Duke did a while ago? Well, it was demons that killed his soldiers. The demons did it. And what pride that last remark had carried. Eventually, the path led us to an open area, and the wagon came to a halt. We got off and saw, past our fading breath, a mansion that seemed more like a castle, tall and white, with a tower for every corner. A small garden separated us from the steps that led up to the entrance. Is that me or someone else? I don't think that was me now. Standing among the bushes, tulips, and pebbles at his feet was a young wolf staring at a window. His clothes were modest, his nape gray, and his hands and face white, sort of like a badger. That was my first reaction. I'm like, that's a strangely badgery wolf, to the point where I'm like, is that a badger? I don't think so. I don't think you draw a badger that way. I might fuck up and draw a badger that way. But that's because I'm on my own journey. Look how giant his goofy nose is. Noses are hard. I really struggle with faces, like just furry faces in general. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to draw them even. There's so many stylized choices to make about how the hell to even shape like the nose and the eyes and so on that are distinctly not based anywhere in any version of realism. They're all... I think that's what throws me off, is that the bodies they're stylized in their own right, but they're based on what a body is shaped like. But a head is weird. A furry head is actually has relatively little relation to the specific details of what a human face or an animal face look like, and they're kind of like a make-up, like a choose-your-own-adventure made-up cartoon stylized character that you make up from scratch, and I'm having troubles making choices in that process. It's hard to explain. When he noticed us and turned around, I got a good look at his blue yet fiery eyes. It lasted long enough to make his distrust palpable. Then he shot the window a last glance before turning to face the nearby trees and began tossing pebbles toward the crooked branches. Hector! Oh. Yes, Dad? You're so scatterbrained today. I'm sorry? A guard is coming. Pay attention and remember to greet him the way I taught you. A tall lion wielding a spear shook hands with my father. It's an honor to be in your presence, sir. I'm Cadgan, and this is my son Hector. I opened my mouth, but the guard cut in. We've been inspecting you, Doctor. Please, step inside. His Grace will want to see you post-haste. And so, Dad forgot all about my greeting. Wait, am I the badger dog? Maybe I am, but maybe I am the badger dog, but it was strange to describe from the third person, because I look like the dad. We followed the guard inside and upstairs. I was told to wait on the lower floor, and that if I needed anything, to call one of the other guards for a servant. But I kept worrying about the greeting. I sat on the first step of the stairs, clutching my knees. I didn't think there was any moment I could have introduced myself. If Dad forgot, then maybe it wasn't important? With that as reassurance, I calmed down and looked at my surroundings. Wherever my eyes went, there were paintings, suits of armor, packed bookshelves, and display cases containing weapons and smaller cases with gems inside or other shiny things. So much wealth. It would have taken me hundreds of lifetimes to work to build this hall. It was best not to touch anything, but I was getting bored. There was no sign of the adults returning. A stroll wouldn't hurt. Down the hallway leading further into the mansion, there were faint smells of spices, fresh clothes, and wolves. There must have been servants working here. The guards were all over the place, but most of them were down the path to my right. I figured I'd go to the left then, since I didn't want to bump into anyone. Okay, now he does look like a badger, though. Okay, so I guess that is who I am, is that guy. Or is he different? That just looks like an actual hang on a minute. Okay, no, there was a badger-like wolf who was not me, but also my dad is a badger and I'm a badger. Okay, I'm not crazy. That was admittedly confusing. Okay. Yeah, I am a badger. Gotcha. So not a hyena, but that's why I have round ears and big nose. There's the wolf. Okay. It's very funny that they're oddly on the same channel appearance-wise. Huh. I didn't need to see him to know he was a wolf. Mainly because I'd already seen him before. Last scene that I just checked. I turned around suddenly, right in time to catch him trying to hide himself in one of the empty rooms. Oh, it's you. Were you following me? Cadgan. What's your name? This is a funny case. I was talking earlier about how, like, why do people often introduce themselves as talking with question marks for a name if the protagonist knows who they are already. In this case, he doesn't know who he is, but does show his name, so it's the inverse. We stared at each other for who knows how long. Cadgan finally stepped forward, wearing an unflinching glare. He was shorter than me, and so much skinnier. The blue of his eyes and the sheen of his fur captivated me. Get out. What? Get out of the mansion. Demons live in this forest. Oh, you're just like Teresa, trying to scare me. His ear twitches. That face is really cute. It's really goofy. Teresa? Uh-huh. Are you guys friends? I'm being serious. He opened his arms, inviting me to look around. The demons chased out the people living here. They'll do the same to you because you're an outsider. They'll curse you, and you'll be lucky to leave alive. I don't believe you. Teresa said they only do that if you go into the valley. Not that they are real, but if they were, ask anyone. You'll see. It frustrated Cadgan that where he wanted fear, there was instead curiosity. Anyway, who are you? I'm Hector. I'm training to become a doctor like my dad. Are you the son of a servant? That's a face. I'm nobody's servant. I was taken aback by his sudden rage. Oh. He shoved me and I landed on my butt. Then the wolf turned tail and ran away. I chased after him, but he turned a corner and I lost him. Or rather, my eyes did. But I didn't need sight to track him. Activating Witcher sense. There's a hag this direction. I followed his trail to the garden. To a little corner hidden by bushes reaching up to my shoulders. Cadgan sat cracking open nuts with his teeth before munching on the insides. His tail swished, disturbing the brush behind him. And every once in a while he pulled on his collar, as though hot under the sun. Either I made some noise or he smelled me back, because suddenly he faced my way. He gave me a taste of wolf knuckle and Rannai's grass and dirt, as well as bloody nostrils. When Dad finally descended the stairs and asked what happened, I said I slipped down the steps while going to the garden. That should have been a sign to steer clear of him. But I didn't. I returned to the same spot a few days later, bringing a dozen or so nuts wrapped in cloth. Cadgan eyed me with suspicion, but didn't hit me this time. That's admittedly strange pacing, in that we're prioritizing Cadgan's introduction so heavily, but didn't we just move here for the first time? You think there'd be like an introduction of like getting to know people and getting acquainted with this new location and investigating this ghost story? But instead we skipped several days already, which is a bit of a surprise. Where'd you get those? I pointed at my nose. Caught their smell when you were eating them the other day, so I went to the forest and found some. Huh. Weird you didn't get lost. Look at that smug-ass face. Old badgers are great foragers. Can I sit? I'll share some if you let me. The wolf looked away, and I invited myself into the small space. I put the cloth between us, some nuts rolled out. We ate them while talking. You haven't told me your name. I'm Hector. You already know it. I'd like to hear it from you. Fine. Cadgan. It's a nice name. Hey, I caught your smell in the forest. Well, yes. I sneak out sometimes. Where else would I find nuts? I heard you weren't allowed out there. Aren't you afraid of the guards catching you or the Duke getting mad? They used to get mad, but now they know I'll be back. Dad said Cadgan was an orphan. It was better to change the subject unless I wanted an angry wolf to rough me up today, too. Dad woke up with a spider in his shoe today. Cadgan snorted. Oh? What do you say? Say? He was in the middle of putting it on when he noticed it. He screamed, chased the bug around, tossed it out the window while he caught it. Heh. Must be the curse. Sure. A chuckle escaped me as well. Even Dad had gotten a laugh at it after the fear passed. When are you going to the forest next? Whenever I want, I guess. I want to come along. Cadgan made a face as though he was deep in thought. Guess you proved you can handle it. You aren't that much of a wimp. I'm not. The wolf swiped a nut from my hand, cracked it, spat the shell out, and opened his jaw wide. After holding that position for a moment, he laughed and tossed it back at me. I caught it after it hit my chest. Cadgan went on about the forest, but I was still repeating what had just happened in my mind. The moment he stole the nut and cracked it, his face, his sharp teeth, his claws, each left a searing mark in my memory. He is extremely interested in Cadgan immediately. Wow! That's the shortest chapter in any furry visual novel ever. 11 years later. Oh, that makes a bit more sense of how rapidly that backstory went. It was just a prologue to introduce Cadgan, and then a time skip to the real story, I guess. But if that was young Cadgan and then there's gonna be an adult Cadgan, that was a lot of sprites to make for a character that's only here for a few minutes. Yeah, I'm a little startled because furry visual novels are famously slow-paced, like sometimes excruciatingly slow. So I'm like, whoa, look how rapidly this is going. Thunder tears to the sky, startling me awake. The beasts of burden roar, the peg-legged coachman's shouts joining them as he reins them in. I grasp my chest as the old wolf subdues the creatures. He then looks back, smiling, his shape obscured by the darkness of his raincoat. You alright, boy? Huddle up. We're almost there. Yes, thank you. He refocuses on the road. I peek through the wagon's front opening, past the coachman, but all I see is rain, mud, and orange lights in the distance. He was right, judging from the last one. Are you having a pleasant dream? Yes. What about? Some beauty, I bet. Actually, it was about my first visit to Rannai. So this is your second time? I've lost count. I used to pass through every few months with my father. The coachman snaps his fingers. Right, the badger doctor and his kid. You're the kid, right? You've grown into a proper doctor, can tell by looking at you. You stayed at Leopoldino's mansion, if memory serves me right. You ever meet any demons? They used to say it was a mistake building it in the forest. The demons would chase him out. It wasn't haunted, no. But I don't think living in the middle of that forest is in such a big, empty house is healthy for the mind. Figures. Leopoldino lived there for years, and the new duke settled there right after, assuming his title. You must be right. The new duke? He summoned you, right? Your daddy worked under Leopoldino, and now you work under his son. That's fate for you. What happened to Leopoldino? He died a little more than a year ago. His son took over after that. Let me tell you, you thought Leopoldino was a beast, and his son is an actual demon. An orange light. I think a window passes by the coachman, and the wagon slows down. The rain falls in full fury, droplet after droplet bouncing off the old wolf's raincoat and splashing onto the floor. We're here, kid. Hurry and go, there's a tavern nearby. Holding my case above me, I hop off the back into the storm. The coachman shouts, and the wagon departs while I try to find my way within the blur of rain and wind. I follow the window's orange glow like a lighthouse's signal, mud engulfing my shoes with every step. I'm so close. There's some art. Look at that. I dig the art style. Got a lion, goofy fantasy characters. The badger's cute. The noise of me rushing into the building draws some gazes. A few linger, though in time all return to their friends, their drinks, or a lamp hanging from the wall. Most of the patrons are wolves, with a few lions mixed in. The latter group doesn't look like guards. They must have gotten caught in the storm and taken refuge here, as evidenced by the occasional water drops and the wet fur smell. Sitting at a table in the corner is a lion dressed in silky clothes and a middle-aged wolf with an arm and a cast and an eye patch. The canine stares into an empty mug while the lion whispers to him. That aside, there's alcohol and the sweet smell of stew being prepared in the air, which immediately reminds me of how hungry I am. Got a big lizard dragon man? Think he's a dragon? That's quite the design. I only noticed the extraordinary thing about this tavern when I find the bar. Behind it is a gold-plated dragon. Probably the largest man I've ever seen. He's already waving for me to get closer, a wide smile on his face. And God, what a smile. It takes me back to the way Dad looked at me after I treated my first patient. Oh, he's goofy as shit. Hey, welcome to Arbel's Nest. I'm Arbel. Looking for food or a room? Both, please. How long are you planning to stay? I'm not sure. Let's say for a while. He inspects me from head to toe. I got a special offer for you. You get a room and 2 meals just for 25 coins a day. I cringe at the last words, but still reach inside my wallet. 25? Sorry, friend, but I know you can afford it. It's clear as day you're one of His Grace's new doctors. Never has someone ripped me off so earnestly. I could wait until the rain stops and check the other ends, but walking off after that smile would leave me with an unpleasant taste in my mouth. Besides, I can afford it. Alright, sure, you got me. Thank you kindly. Here's your key. Arbel invites me to sit at the bar, saying lunch would be ready soon. But I would rather unpack first. I go up the creaky staircase to the 2nd floor and into the 3rd door on my left. The storm's howling is like a lullaby in the dark, musty room. My eyelids get heavier, though my belly's rumbling keeps the slumber at bay. I open my case on the bed to unpack, but first I look for something to dry myself with. I glance at the window, focusing on the droplets splashing against it. Does he still live in Rannai, I wonder? What does he look like now? Will we recognize each other if we meet? A sigh escapes my lips. Wherever you are, I hope there's a roof over your head, Cadgan. He remembers him still. I mean, he'd have to. He literally just dreamed about him. Next, I check my belt bag is properly stocked. My glasses, a few elixirs, bandages, and a pair of gloves are all packed tightly inside. This way I don't need to worry about an emergency catching me with my pants down. I'm in the middle of assembling my brewing equipment when a muffled shout comes from downstairs. Maybe Arbel's calling me because the food is ready? Oh, that doesn't sound like him. It continues, and it's getting louder. Curious, I make my way to the staircase to peek down. Arbel's looking a third of his size, practically crouching behind the bar. The wolf with his arm in a cast is standing up now, hurling bare-fanged accusations at the lion. Huh. It's like slightly odd phrasing to say the wolf and the lion just because they weren't introduced as characters before. So it's like there's a wolf and a lion, but like the implies that they've been introduced before. The feline glares at him, his hand clasped on the table. Oh, he was in the CG earlier. I remember that character. You can't do this to me. Where will my family go? Be quiet, mongrel. This is out of my control. It's your responsibility to pay your taxes on time. That said, you lack coin or unwilling to let go of your property, which in actuality belongs to his grace, there are plenty of other ways to repay your debt. A snarl escapes the wolf's mouth as he grabs the mug and raises it high up. The wide-eyed lion abandons his bravado and tries to dodge, but it's too late. The canine swings the mug down, only for someone to catch his wrist. During their argument, Arwell had run into the kitchen, calling out a name. A wolf came out after. I only caught a glimpse of a blue cape and gray back as he dashed toward the commotion. This newcomer, tall and wide as a mountain, had stopped the swing at the last second. It's Cadgan, isn't it? Yup, and he's fucking huge. Oh, that's an extremely... that's an extremely ample bulge. I wasn't quite ready for that when I had the dialogue. I'm transfixed by him, trying to extract as much detail as possible from what little the cape leaves exposed. The cape leaves a lot exposed. I guess his back's turned to you. It's when he looks at the other wolf and I see his face that my mind goes numb. My legs take me downstairs of their own accord.
Damn you, Cadgan. Let go.
Oops, that's not the control.
Stop it, Sean. What good will it do to attack him? I don't care. What's the worst that'll happen? Me being thrown in jail? Ha! At least then I can sleep under a roof. You're naive if you think that Duke will be merciful to a man who can't even work a plot of land. Put the mug down.
Sean struggles against the bigger man's grip, to no avail. Eventually he lowers his ears in resignation, and does as commanded. At which point Cadgan releases him. The lion clears his throat. It's good at least one of you is reasonable. Ah, racism. Cadgan frowns at the lion.
This is about his debt again?
The Duke's patience and mercy have their limits. We must repay it one way or another.
How much?
Excuse me?
How much is it? I'll pay for him.
He reaches for his purse, but Sean protests, shock in his eye.
You can't, Cadgan. You don't have that much money either. What's your plan then? I don't know, but I earn more than most, believe me. I'll be all right. You're the one in need here, Sean. It's a rough time for all of us. We need to support each other, or else Rannai might break for good. I'm only doing what's right. Cadgan.
I lost the distinction between these voices. The smaller wolf can't hold his tears anymore. Oops. Yep. Cadgan pats him on the shoulder, then continues the conversation about payment with the debt collector. I'm dumbstruck on the bottom step, with a foolish expression plastered all over my face. It takes a wolf wanting to get his room to drag me back to reality. Hey, mind getting out of the way? Oh, I'm so sorry. I was just, The canine raises an eyebrow and shakes his head before proceeding upstairs. Even after the tax collector leaves, preferring the company of the rain over the wolves, there's tension in the air. Arwell tries to soothe everybody's mood by announcing lunch is ready. Cadgan pats Sean on the shoulder one more time and goes to sit at the bar. I stare at Cadgan a while. Is it really him? God, he might be shorter than Arwell, but the mountain-like disposition makes him seem the biggest person in the room. Speaking of the dragon, he gestures me to come closer. 1 second. I need to take a drink. Half an hour straight of reading wears you down. What are you doing? Why not take a seat, buddy? Yes, you're right. Thank you. Every joint and sinew feels rigid as I sit next to Cadgan. Goodness, why am I so nervous? Are you afraid he'll greet you by snapping you in half like a twig, Hector? Wait, that isn't so unlikely. I'm afraid I didn't catch your name earlier, friend. Hector. I'm Hector of Obland. The wolf's ears twitch, and slowly he looks up from the counter. By the time Cadgan's gaze falls on me, I'm resigned to whatever fate he has in store for his old friend. Back in the day, a tackle and a chokehold would become a mandatory greeting after months of absence. He was a child then. Now he's a giant. Surely he'll strangle me dead with biceps and forearm, but despite knowing my inevitable demise, I feel at peace, even giddy. However, the wolf merely looks at me.
Well, that's a face I haven't seen in a long time.
Indeed, you've, grown? His ear twitches.
You've become a full-fledged doctor.
You two know each other?
Uh-huh. We go way back. Isn't that right, Hector?
I clear my throat, most of the to buy time to gather my wits. Cadgan. Cadgan was one of my father's patients, but we became great friends during that time. I didn't know if you still lived in town, but I was planning to look for you after seeing the Duke. You'd think we'd run into each other right away. A chilly wind from the times before Arwel's Nest, when the trees and pale sunlight surrounded us near the Duke's mansion, blows past my ears. It doesn't disturb me, because Cadgan leans the way with that expression hotter than any flame, stone, or iron. Before I let you two catch up, you like a drink, Hector? The first one's on the house. Oh, of course. Thank you. It smells great. And one for Cadgan, for helping Sean.
Appreciated.
Arlo returns to the kitchen to finish preparing lunch. We take sips from our drinks while we talk.
You seemed surprised a while ago.
Well, I was expecting to find a skinny wolf about my height. What have you been doing during that physique?
A lot of jobs, most of them unremarkable. Nowadays, I'm a lumberjack and the town's unofficial peacekeeper.
I slap the bar, cackling. You? Peacekeeper? You're joking.
No, I'm serious.
The resurfacing childhood memories bring a smile to his face. It's a small, fragile thing, and it only lasts for an instant. Then he's back to that serious expression. What does Rannai even need a peacekeeper for? We never heard about there being much trouble in town.
Yes, it used to be peaceful, but things change.
Cadgan suddenly turns toward the kitchen. What is it?
The food is ready.
Arwell exits the kitchen carrying an enormous iron pot and begins serving the stew, which is a rather simple mix of egg, meat, and some fruit or vegetable I don't recognize. The latter part gives an exotic smell that makes my stomach twist in hunger. Because we always stayed in the Duke's mansion, I didn't taste the local cuisine much. Leopoldino preferred ingredients imported from his homeland. I can barely resist shoving the first few spoonfuls in my mouth. Control yourself, Hector. Don't embarrass yourself in front of Cadgan so soon. Want some, Cadgan?
No, thank you. The free beer was enough compensation.
Let me treat you to a bowl, then.
You don't have to.
Yes, let me treat him. This one's for helping in the kitchen. Arwell serves the wolf stew anyway and walks away. After my stomach is half full and my plate half empty, I recall that what Cadgan said before the dragon returned. Even having noticed the darkness behind these words, My curiosity gets the best of me. What did you mean earlier by the town changing?
Do you not know what's happening?
I figured something bad happened, but the job description was very vague. It just said that the Duke was summoning many doctors here. The wolf falls silent for a moment. This is very loud rain noises for what has become indoor setting. The wolf
It started with Manuelino's arrival. Leopoldino wasn't a good ruler, but he knew there were limits to how much he should intervene with town life. He ruled Rannai with an iron fist, but knew it was more profitable to keep it sane and running. Manuelino, he doesn't care. He's been pulling jobs away from
I don't know why I said jobs immediately when that's not what the word was, but that was later what they said. That just I threw myself off so bad.
He's been pulling people away from their jobs, getting them mangled out there in the valley, and sending them back home, expecting them to work and pay taxes as though they didn't break an arm. That's what happened earlier.
That's awful. I thought there'd been a flood, a big accident, or something to that effect. I didn't think it'd be this bad. But Manuelino... Oh. You mean Manuel? I knew they were related, but to think that he was Leopoldino's heir...
Sorry. I picked up the habit of calling him that from the others. Make sure you call him your grace and all that. And one more thing.
The wolf lowers his voice and drags his chair closer. The touch of his arm against mine startles me.
Whatever you do, avoid mentioning the legends about the demons to the Duke. If he brings them up, just let him talk and nod, and don't contradict him.
He's not a fan of folklore, huh? Cadgan side-eyes a nearby table where some lions sit.
It's not that, but let's talk about it later when we don't have so much company. So, how about you, Hector? How has life treated you these last years?
Slowly I stir what remains of my stew. My memories of Rannai are nothing but sweet, but I never think about what happened next. When I wake up, I pretend I don't know when I became a doctor, or why Dad is gone. When I go to bed, it comes back to me. I shut my eyes, and I hope I can ignore the noise until sunrise. That's not a good sign. Maybe Cadgan wonders how come he didn't see me for 9 years, or if the situation in my town got resolved. I hope, but I don't, that he pries me open, wakes me up from this dream where the past doesn't exist outside Rannai. But then, what can I tell him? Let's see. Surely it wasn't all bad. Find something that doesn't sour this otherwise happy reunion. How about this? Dad has passed away. Now you answer the call of his clients from the city, the merchants and noblemen who called for Dr. Eogan. Give you a look when a badger half his age, with eyes round like plates and shaky hands, shows up on their doorstep. Shaky hands are such a bad sign. Can he be trusted to handle chemicals? To not screw up when infusing elixirs with magic? God, you can't handle a needle like that. You can't handle a needle like that, let alone a knife. But you convince them all. You aren't like your father. You are better. Even Mr. Daniels, always so rude, acknowledges it. He put it best. You are a masterpiece. Dr. Eogan's masterpiece. 26 years and counting in the making. Still in the making. Uh-oh. Well, that can't be good. That was a compelling little sidebar, though. So I tell Cadgan about Dad's old clients. how they had reacted when I showed up, and how impressed they were afterwards. And when Mr. Daniels had hit me in the face with his medical bag because he feared I'd slip and stab him with a needle while doing his stitches.
You're very skilled from the sound of it. Had he been born a lion, he'd be in their capital, working for the nobles and whatnot.
You flatter me, but, well, life dealt me different cards. Not that I'm complaining.
Yes. What about your father, then? Did he retire?
No. He's gone.
Oh. I'm sorry.
Cadgan looks at the arrangement of glasses and bottles in front of him. It happened a long time ago, so it doesn't bother me anymore. It clearly bothers him still. Hey, how is... What was her name? Something with T?
Teresa? She's doing well. She's expecting.
Yes, her. Is it her first child?
Third. She's had twins. Both troublemakers like their mother. Don't tell her I said that. Which reminds me. How about you, Hector?
Huh? What?
Children. You have any?
Oh, sir, I hate to break it to you, but I'm the protagonist of a furry visual novel, so I'm extremely gay. No, I have too much work to meet with anybody, let alone think about children. Even if I had time, I don't know if I'd want any. Ah, these confirmed bachelor euphemism. The wolf takes up his mug, staring at the swirling substance for a long time before taking a big gulp.
I see.
Do you? I need to pick up... Sorry, I'm getting distracted by all the art. First of all, I just really like the art style of the sprites, but also I'm like, I need to pick up that trick of how you highlight the edge of the shading with a warmer color. I keep thinking about that when I see other people's art, and then I forget about it when I actually draw. It's hard. Drawing is really hard. I don't know how you draw... The specific way that you combine lines and curves with shading to draw, like, abs and whatnot, is like a very specific thing that I have not cracked yet. I'm just bad at this. The storm is letting up, its lullaby reduced to a pitter-patter. After clearing my plate, I stopped to take a look at the wolf while he finishes his. The last time I saw him, he was shorter and skinnier than me, but that didn't make him any less admirable. Now he wouldn't be out of place, illustrated as a hero of a legend of some epic. It fills me with pride that his friend has grown into such a fine man. I'm pretty rotund myself, of course, but with muscles like that, he could lift me with one arm and not break a sweat. The pride must be visible on my face, because when Cadgan notices me looking, his smile and the glimmer in his eyes are the same as he would have whenever he showed off. Is it pride? Is that what he thinks he's seeing? Or that you're just into him? I look away, feeling self-conscious suddenly. After finishing his food, Cadgan looks towards the windows.
I should go.
So soon? What for?
Got some wood. Wood? Got some wood to deliver. Gotta keep everyone warm. The rain held me for longer than I'd have liked.
We get up, and I follow him to the door. The breeze coming from outside surprises me, making me shiver. But it's not pouring down as hard anymore. Well, I'm glad I got to talk to you again, Cadgan.
Me too.
The wolf stops and turns to me with a thoughtful expression. Thinking I would head back inside right away, he puts a hand on my shoulder. What is this? I think the CGs might be a different artist than the sprites, but I'm not entirely sure. It might just be drawn in a different context, because like, when you draw a sprite, you're trying to go for such a level of like consistency, so that they aren't like weird. It's like a much more rigid art style. So the same artist might draw very differently outside of sprites. Like Haps does. Haps draws very differently. Even just drawing Amicus, he draws him very differently between CGs and sprites like crazy. Even putting aside like art style drift and all that. your height difference here. That is a significant height difference. He pulls me closer, but it's his rugged touch and the now powerful smell of tree bark and damp earth that pin me in place. What will you do? I'll take a nap until the rain stops before I head to the Duke's mansion. Sounds good. Remember what I told you. Yes, don't talk about demons. Don't disagree with him. Will you be alright? You already sound nervous. I'm not used to how big you've gotten. Ah, sorry. He passed me on the shoulder before letting me go. I'll come around again tomorrow. Let's talk more then. I smile. I look forward to it. I'm surprised to find my room colder than when I left it. The first suspect is the window, but it's closed indeed. Behind the glass and below it is a lamp post in the middle of the street, a few shops on the other side, and further back, the forest outline. Must be because of the rain, I suppose, or maybe it's me. Which lends credence to the later hypothesis that laying under two blankets, one from the room and the other from home, doesn't help. Is it my flesh? It's not a fever. I'm not coughing or leaking from my nostrils. Maybe nerves then. Just hope it passes. Journal? Chapter 3. Aogan. Uh-oh. That's not good. He's dead. That's not good at all. What does the journal do? Oh, Hector of LeBlanc. Me. I'm a 26-year-old badger and a doctor. My biggest pride is my nose. Oh, right, because smelling. I was like, wait, what? I'm returning to Rannai after 9 years to work for the Duke. While it's unusual for me to stay away from home for long, the Duke offers a hefty pay, and I'm in dire need of money. Anyway, he's become huge. There's just like little summaries of the characters here. That's handy to have. That sound effect is very loud. Oblun. I'll let you guys read these if you want to, but I'm not gonna dwell on them for too long because they might be kind of redundant at the moment. And we got things we're trying to do. Magic. Herbalism is under magic? The science of brewing elixirs from certain raw materials, most commonly herbs. The inherent magic within the materials is extracted and refined so that the resulting elixir will achieve a desired effect. Okay, so potions exist in this universe. Like magic ones. Every day, people came and asked Dad questions. The whys and hows of a pain they had, which herbs would help, and how much they cost. Whether you skinned your knee or broke an arm or leg, he'd patch you up. If you broke into a fever, a glance was all he needed to know what was wrong. It followed, then, that Duke Leopoldino, who became interested in a wolf boy afflicted with a mysterious illness, turned to Dad. It also followed that the day we arrived in the mansion, behind our lavish room's closed door, he asked me why I lied. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting bouncing between timelines here. I was like a little startled, like, why are we skipping ahead so hard past this introduction? But it really was fixing on that particular wolf character, who seems to be, apparently is why we're here. I was thinking about that. Earlier he said that he was his patient, and I was like, was he? But yeah, it looks like he was his patient. That's apparently why we were there. Is this wolf has a strange illness and was just wandering around as an orphan or something? Interesting. And yeah, we claimed that we fell over, but the dad definitely immediately knew that we got punched. You fell down the stairs? At least I know you're not lying often, because you're terrible at it. This also makes sense because, like, they put so much work into the sprites for Cadgan and Aogan in the past, and I was like, What do you mean that entire section was like 5 minutes long? What the fuck? That was so many sprites. It's like not just like the fact that there's a sprite for each of them, which is already unlikely when they're on screen that little in that example, but the fact that they had several poses, I'm like, okay, hang on a minute. We're definitely seeing more young Cadgan again, right? In flashbacks, and that's exactly what's happening. It's funny how the economics of visual novels often give away some of the plot a little bit, or like how it's going to be structured. He knew even the things you didn't want to hear and had no trouble telling it all. And had no trouble... Hang on a minute. He knew even the things you didn't want to hear and had no trouble telling it all. When Grandpa was still alive, we had one of our fights. Later that night, Dad would talk again about the old tyrant of Oblan. That during his reign, he had asked for an education. They would have laughed him off. If he tried to grab a scalpel, they would have cut that hand off. And if he tried to run, they'd do away with a foot instead. That at my age, instead of spending his afternoons in a classroom, he was lost in a forest with trees made of cloth and a ground of mud and blood. Carrying a basin as his mud and blowed... I'm losing the structure of the sentence a little bit. I'm fucking up. Carrying a basin as his mud and blood-caked feet splattered the sinister mixture everywhere. He went around picking up viscera that had fallen to the ground. Rather than treetops, there were hands, faces, and hanging livestock. Among the faces, Dad sometimes found Grandpa holding a large red blade. However, that was nothing compared to what the tyrant let his men do to Aunt Nora and the other woman while they were out foraging. Aunt Nora was just a child back then. This is why this became a breaking point. This sounds extremely dark. Grandpa and his allies turned their blades against the tyrant and let him taste what being livestock is like. Put the tyrant's head on a stick, his wife and children's too, and allowed a new lord to rise to power. And thanks to that, Dad turned us into a family of doctors. Dad loved medicine. To right the wrongs, set straight what was not, and set me straight he did. To think I'd repay his efforts by telling a lie. This Cadgan kid did this, did he? His Grace warned me to be uncooperative. But I don't want to hear your excuses. Go to the lavatory and make yourself presentable. Clean your nose and shake that dirt off. We're seeing our patient when you return. Yes, Dad. So they had met Cadgan again between the two encounters we saw before. Our patient was Cadgan, which I didn't learn until we went into his room and found him sitting on the bed, hugging his knees and staring daggers at us. He didn't dare do anything with Dad and a guard there, but my father didn't approach him. He looked ready to jump at us, baring his fangs whenever Dad got too close, and while the guard kept us safe, his being there made it clear this wouldn't be easy. So we kept our distance at first. Dad retrieved his prismilium crystal and gathered magic in the palm of his hand. The crystal began hovering in front of him. At his request, I took his journal and got ready to take notes. With a single eye, Dad looked at Cadgan through the crystal. He seems alright at a glance, and the prismilium isn't picking up on anything either. That lines up with what the Duke already knew. The crystal, depowered, landed on his palm. Let's wait before we continue with this. In the meantime, Cadgan, I'd like you to answer some questions. Please, don't be afraid. We're only here to cure you, you understand? First, how do you feel throughout the day? Do you notice any symptoms before or after you fall unconscious? All the questions fell on deaf ears. Suddenly, Cadgan slumped over. Dad reached into his pocket for the green crystal. What is this? His life force is flowing outward from one of the inner layers and bouncing all over the place. Nerves, bones, flesh, skin. All 4 layers were compromised. Irregular as it was, this didn't hurt Cadgan besides making him go unconscious around a specific time of the day. No matter how much we tried to wake him up, he wouldn't respond until his life force stopped running rampant. What it did was confuse Dad. We didn't know what he was he didn't know what he was looking at. He couldn't tell. No matter how many times he looked, how much he speculated, turned elixirs on the wolf, he couldn't understand or set it straight. I started anticipating the daily checkup, but that wouldn't be enough, no. Dad's confusion gave rise to a new greed within me that wouldn't be sated so easily. So, despite how poorly our first encounter went, I would try to befriend Cadgan again. I figured more of those nuts he was eating would make a nice peace offering. In retrospect, that was one of my better ideas, wasn't it? That's interesting. Chapter 4. The 5 Layers. This has really solid pacing so far. I don't want to just like summarize good pacing as being fast, but listen, I do a lot of let's tries of furry visual novels, and sometimes I get 2 hours deep and there is so much narration that is overly descriptive in a way that's not actually maintaining momentum, and it kind of feels like somewhat lacking in purpose, that it just can take a very long time to get anywhere. So the fact that things are going and we have a plot and some intrigue and we're bouncing around a bit and we're developing different characters in a way where you're like, oh, what's this guy's deal? What's going on with them? It's actually pretty engaging. I'm digging that. But that's about all the time we have for today. So if you want to check this game out, there's a link in the description to the current build. There's probably not that much because I think there's only 1 so far, but you can always click the follow button to get emails and whatnot when they update them. So thanks for watching like always, guys, and I'll see you next time.